So welcome to my new group, Portal to Mysteries. And if you haven't done it yet, take a look at the About section, read what this group is about, because while I'm talking about Genius and Dragons now, in this live stream, there's going to be other mysteries coming because Mystique is really transitioning to becoming a mystery school. And that means that we will be going where nobody has gone before, which is into new mysteries, not the old mysteries. And that, of course, means that I have to do it myself. And this is part of what I'm going to be talking about today in about the Genius Mystique. So yeah, read the About section and then go in and read the post that says Start Here, so that you can get a sense what this is about. And if you have any post you want to share about Genius, Dragon, Earth mysticism, which is the three mysteries that I kind of like dominant right now, go ahead and share them because I'm really curious to know what they are about. So, Genius Mystique. So I often think of Genius as the greatest mystery of all. And I'm saying this because it's a mystery that exists inside of you. Genius is a substance that is located in your bones, but it is not available to you on the light grid. It's only accessible once you go through the portal to the dark, once you switch from the light energy body to the dark energy body, and then it becomes accessible to you. So beyond that, what is it? It is not just one thing, which is something I have seen, a desire for people to nail their genius, like the one thing that is their genius. And, I was guilty of doing that myself. But is it like a common thread that I've seen going on and on. And genius is not just one thing, it's many things. But all of them have in common that they are expressions of the same signature vibration, field. Somehow it's hard to find the exact words to describe this because it's English words are not really made for this. So genius, first of all, genius has really nothing to do with your human being. So when I say genius, it's not about how smart you is. Your genius is kind of who you end up, or the life you end up living, or what ends up mattering to you once you unhook yourself from the human. And when I say unhook yourself from your human, it's really about setting yourself free from all the things that you have taught matter, setting yourself free from all the shoulds and should nots, how you should act, how you should not act, how you should think, how you should not think, how you should feel, how you should not feel, how you should behave, how you should not behave, So to access your genius, you need to unhook from all those things that you have been taught matter. And you have to because we call it shedding the human, right? It's like kind of shedding the human construct, shedding the human conditions, so that when everything you have been taught is important, whether that's thoughts, feelings, behaviors, choices, beliefs, whatever, once they have fallen away, once you have, taken your freedom from that, genius is something you submit to. Whereas in your, with everything you've learned about being a human, it's really about taking charge of your human life. Whereas when you work with your genius in the dark, it's exactly the opposite. It's like you let go of everything that has to do with taking charge and taking control of what it is. And it's hard, right? It is hard because Human beings feel safe when they're in control. So genius is maybe the best words I have to describe it is your divine mandate. So once you're unhooked from your human, what is left is your pure spiritual self, like your spirit essence. You know the saying that we are human beings, we're not human beings on a spiritual journey, we are spiritual beings on a human journey. So once you take the human journey away, so what the hooking is, then what is left is that you're a pure spiritual being. And as this pure spiritual being, you are a creator. You know, you're made in the image of God, you're a creator. And this is something you haven't actually thought about before. But if you think of like ancient mythologies, whether it's Greek mythology, Roman mythology, it's like every single god and goddess had like a specific area of life that they was in charge of. And it's almost like your genius field is like that. It's like very specific that this is what your genius is about. So it has different faces, different facets, but it's very much about just one thing. And it is you, and it's also not you. So one way to think about it is like genius is field. Think of genius as, yes, there's a substance in your bones, but it's also like a field of magical possibilities, a field of magical potentials, a field of portals to mystical places, a field of everything you never knew you dreamed of, but you actually did, but you just didn't know it. And that field, that genius field, and you kind of have a symbiotic relationship. It's not a parasitic, but a symbiotic relationship. It's like living in the dark, you're living in genius, right? So there is this interweaving of you and the genius, because you become the vehicle through which genius expresses itself into the three-dimensional world. And what I know from having channeled people's genius is that it is always really, really, really big. It's not just a small thing, it's always like big. Like genius is big. Genius is big vision, big something. So, you know, in that way, the genius field has a, I don't know if I want to say directive or purpose of its own. It is very defined in what it is about. So, for example, my genius field is, you know, the Mystique field is very much about dragons and how dragons, you know, do the dance with genius. You know, the people's genius, dragon codes for all of us, and then there's earth mysticism, a very new form of earth mysticism. But for example, being a mechanic and fixing cars, that would not be part of my Mystique or Mystique genius field. So there is like a coherency or something very precise and defined and exact what your genius field is about. Now, having said that, there's also a very precise and exact way that field comes through you, which is then becomes your own personal genius. And for me, that personal genius is about, you know, channeling the new dragon codes, and it's about the new earth mysticism. And it's also because genius is not just one thing, it's always changing shape, becoming something new. And I liken it to, you know, like how an artist, you know, over a lifetime can express his artistic talent in many different ways. So he or she might be starting with watercolor painting, then go into charcoal, then go into like sculpture, then go into holographic installments, then go into architecture, then go into, I don't know, gardening, and maybe even go into cooking, you know. But all along, it's like the expression of that person's genius, of that person's artistic genius. And I'm using the word art very deliberately, because what we are doing when we are in our genius is we are creating art. What makes art art, right? It's the art is creating something out of nothing. And the things that are created from genius will always be things that have never existed before, and also things that have never been imagined before, because genius exists in the realm of the unimaginable and the impossible, and I don't know if I want to say miraculous, because this is so associated with the liquid, but there's something about genius where it exists beyond the human condition, you know, beyond the capability of the human mind to even conceive of. And to me, that makes it a grand adventure, you know, because it's going into the unknown. It's like, holy fuck, it's going into the unknown. It's like a great idea when you think about it, but when you have to do it, it's like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna go and be normal again. So genius, to me, is a very, very sacred thing. It is not something you use. It is not something to take lightly, which I have been guilty of doing. It is genius is of the divine. And because it's of the divine, it kind of needs to be treated with reverence, right? It is not something for your human to use and put aside and use and put aside. And because I'm coming from the world of business coaching, both as a business coach and, you know, hanging out with other people who also coaches, it's like there's been a tendency to see genius as something that you build your business from. And you can totally do that. And it's brilliant, you know, I'm doing it. Mystique is a business also, and is not just a business. So genius is your world, it becomes your life, because because it has such an exacting tone and such precision to what is your genius and what is not genius, and to stay in genius, to not be kicked out of it, you have to always consistently strike that tone. And it has a lot to do with supreme integrity and holding up the imperial standards. Meaning, when I say supreme integrity, you can't bring in shadow. And the same thing with imperial standards, you can't bring in shadow. It always has to be an extreme, supreme integrity, and you can't wobble on your standards, because then you get kicked out of genius. And, you know, sounds fairly simple. My experience is hellishly hard. And that doesn't mean it can't be done. So your entry into a genius is always going to be a journey of submitting more. When I first started moving into my genius back last fall, the expression of it then was very different than the expression of it is right now. And this whole journey has taken me into a deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper submission to genius. So that what I was doing in the fall was when I really started working with business coaching. And then lately, which I knew in the spring, but, you know, I was resisting, was to stop the business coaching and going in and working with Dragon's codes and Earth mysticism. And the thing about genius, right, it's like it's going to take you unimaginable places. So I was all cool back when Mystique was about business coaching and teaching people, to do their genius business. But when it came around to, okay, now this is about dragon codes and Earth mysticism, I was like, yeah, sure, I like the idea, but it's the unknown. It's a place that I have no knowledge of where I'm going to go, which is why you got to have blind faith when you're going to genius. You got to have blind faith because you don't know what you're getting yourself into. And you just have to do it over and over and over again. It's like when your genius command comes in, it's like, now do this. You just got to do it, and hard for me to do. I sometimes manage this, other times I go into full resistance. So for example, when I heard a couple of weeks ago, when my mentor Sonika, she brought it up to me that now it's time for me to completely shut down the business coaching and stop teaching about dark consciousness, which is what I had been doing, and actually get real about the dragon codes. I instantly said yes, because it was just so obvious. Somehow there was no resistance to submitting more to that. And I went, sat there for a while to let it land in my body, because genius lives in your body. It does not live out there. So even if my hands are doing something like that, genius is actually always, always, always in your body, and it's not in your mind either. So you can't figure it out with your mind. And this is something, I think pretty much everybody is guilty of doing. Well, I wouldn't say everybody, but me and my clients, trying to figure it out with our mind first. And you can't figure a genius out with your mind. It is in your body. It's felt as a truth in your body. It exists in your body. And your body will know how to live in genius, even if your mind has absolutely no clue, which I promise you it won't have. And this is where the tricky situation comes in then, because the human part of you is so insanely conditioned to being in charge and having control, and letting go of that control in all ways, the whole way, is an ongoing struggle for me. And I know for many other people also. And it's just, you just gotta deal with it, because it's like submit, keep submitting, keep submitting, keep submitting. Yeah, you may not know, but your genius always knows. And this is why it's so important, don't think about it, just go with the truth in your body, because your body always knows. Genius has a great way of triggering you. We call it chaos, right? When things comes out of order, because genius doesn't, here's the other part about genius that I wanted to talk about. Genius doesn't show up in a linear way. It shows up in a rather chaotic, out of order way. And one of the things I realized that I will often write something, and then I realized later on that I actually wrote something that became true for my future. And this happened a few times. I was just realizing, when I was confronted today with the fact that I need to submit more to the dragon codes, that when I wrote the about section, I think it was the about section here, for this group, I wrote something about boldly going where no one has gone before. And I remember when I wrote it, it felt true in my body. Like I was really writing from my body and not my mind, because this is how you express genius. It comes out when your mind is empty and you let whatever it is flow out of your body. So it's very, very focused on writing that from my body. And the words kept I kept hearing the words to boldly go where no one has gone before, the famous Star Trek sentence. And, that sounded very cool for a mystery school, right? I kind of like knew this mystery school that Mystique had informed me it wanted to become a mystery school. That a mystery school, you can't build a mystery school on something you actually understand, that you know what is, and there's no mystery in it. But that it also wasn't a mystery school about known mysteries. I mean, there's many mystery schools out there in the world, but they are built on something known, something very often, something very old. And this Mystique mystery school are kind of mysteries that has never existed on Earth before. So those who come in here and do this journey into mystery with me, it will be going to places where no one has gone before and to boldly go there before. And just today I was confronted with the fact that even with my submission to, okay, we're going to work with dragon codes here, I still needed to submit more to dragon codes. I needed to submit more to being the dragon myself. And instantly, my human was freaking out. It's like, yes, I wanted to be special because that was my thing. I don't know if you guys saw one of my live streams from a while ago where I talked about how I had struggled so much with being special. And yeah, I got to be special because I get to do this whole thing with dragon codes. And now that it's here in my face and I actually have to do it, it's like instantly, my human comes up and says, too scary, too unknown, I can't do it, I just want to be normal. And I was like, so absurd, right? Because I so much wanted to be special. And I finally got to be special, and then the only thing I want to do was go back to being normal. It like really shows you how the human is crazy, insane. So anyway, it's like this brought me back, as I was just sitting there, just letting, noticing all these shadows that were coming up, like all my human going crazy. It's like, I can't do that. It's too much hard work. I don't know how. I just want to be normal. Why me? Everything came up. And, after it passed, I was sitting there and thinking, it's like, this is really about going where nobody has gone before. Just like Colleen and Sonika, they have been going, and Navid, have been going where nobody has gone before with the dark consciousness teachings. This is also going where no one has gone before. And coming back to my, my readings of other people's genius, and having worked with bringing other people's genius online, this is what I see over and over and over again, is always going boldly where nobody has gone before when it comes to your genius. And yeah, it's like they're submitting more and more and more. It's not like you're suddenly thrown into the deep end, and yet there is this part where you will have to boldly go where no one has gone before, because this is what it means to be a creator, right? When you're a creator, you're creating something that has never, ever, ever existed before. You're creating something that was never imagined before. This is what an artist does. An artist does not create something that was imagined before. An artist creates something that was never imagined before. And I happen to live in Florence, for those of you who don't know it, Florence in Italy, which is, the birth of the Renaissance art, where you have Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and Raphael and, all these famous Renaissance artists. And of course, the famous statue of David, and which is one of the most famous statues in the world. And I was curious, why is David such a famous statue? It's very big, And it is famous because This was a statue, a form of sculpture that had never been done before. So when Michelangelo created David, he went where nobody had ever gone before with art, which was creating a statue of the underdog, basically, because up until then, the statues had been on, like the rich people, the top guys in the hierarchy or whatever. David was the first ever sculpture, I don't know if in Europe or whatever, but of somebody not famous, like the underdog, like the normal person. And he was an artist who followed his genius command, even if he wasn't in the dark, it was take the story for what it is. Like, he followed his genius command and created something that nobody had ever imagined up until he did it first. So this part of the genius is being a creator of something that has never existed before. Which is great, which is fun, and which is also really, really scary at times. But to boldly go where nobody has gone before, which is what this Facebook group is going to be about. True portals to many mysteries. And I don't know what all these mysteries are going to be, because that's still a mystery to me too. And my submission to genius, to my genius, to the Mystique field, which, so interesting. Mystique means the mystery of mysteries, basically, is to follow where it leads. So there's another part of genius that has to do with how it comes out. And this is something I've been thinking about. I wanted to say also with with the genius, where it can lead you, like one of my clients, the more she submitted to her genius, I was like, amazing to see the magic that came out, that came her way, and she ended up creating a whole new industry, which just blows my mind that it's like she boldly is creating a brand new industry. It's just, blowing my mind, which is also, again, boldly going where no one has gone before. And this is it's like an industry which is completely and utterly her genius and to her purest taste. So taste is a word that comes up around genius also. And talk about what's to your taste, what's to your pure taste. Not what you desire, but what is to your taste. Now, I have found that what is to my taste before I submit and what is to my taste after I submit is actually not necessarily the same thing. So my human taste is different from my genius, submission to genius taste. And the submission to genius taste, I always realize, not right away, but after I've been, having it land in my body, that this is to my pure taste. But I didn't even know it existed. I didn't even know this was to my pure taste. So, for example, this whole Sanctorium, school for dragon codes and genius, where we're going to be activating dragon codes to activate your genius and, really get you to really fold into your genius and express it in different kinds of art and learn the myth about it, and all these things. The pure taste. So that whole thing with the Sanctorium and the Dragon School, because it didn't exist until I submitted to the fact that I wasn't going to be doing business coaching anymore and I was not going to teach dark consciousness. And I submitted, but I didn't know what I was submitting to. I knew it had something to do with dragon codes. That was about it, and Earth mysticism, and that was all I knew. And I submitted anyway. And after I submitted, this whole thing with the Sanctorium school came up, and I've had run a school before, and I know I really just like it, to kind of teach and coach the same things, so that I can focus on the people. Because it's really, I really love activating genius and working with people's genius. And dragon codes is like, just gonna make it happen much faster. That once I had submitted to doing these dragon things, and the schools, as the Sanctorium, had shown itself how it wanted to be created, and I submitted to that, I realized, wow, I have such an intense taste for this school that I had no idea that it was my taste. Like, the taste is so strong for this school. There's very few things I've had such a strong taste for. And I didn't know that until after I had submitted. So when you hear about, what is to your taste, what is to your taste, what is to your taste, sometimes you don't know that until you have submitted to what genius wants you to do. This is what we call genius command, which is not intuition, it comes out of your body. Yeah. Any questions? There was one more thing I was going to talk about. Hold on to. So anyway, so coming back around to that, I always talk about, words I often use in conjunction with the word genius is like sacred and mystic. It's your mystic genius, because it's a mystery. It's a mystery where your genius is going to take you, because it's not just one thing, as I said in the beginning, it's many things. And it's going to take you further and further into, this mystery place, this mystical realm. Like, for me, it's Sanctorium is like a school of mystery, now starting with the dragon and the genius, part, and there might be more to it, but it's like, there is I don't even know, it's like you're just submitting to it more, or you're folding into it more, I'm not really sure what the expression is, but there is like this, it's like a journey, right? It's a quest. It's a mystical quest. Where is a genius going to take you? What are all the different expressions of genius in the world? There's another thing I wanted to address, which about genius, because while everybody has their own genius, I'm not really sure how to phrase it. It's like, I am sort of like the one hosting the Mystique field, but it's not only me doing it, because I have 3 other people with me that are co-hosting the Mystique field with me, and there's Manja, who is the lore keeper, there's Hillary, there's the Archon, which she's in charge of the admin and technology, and then Patricia, who is really about everything, all about the Earth codes. And the Mystique field is for all of us, but within the Mystique field, we also have our own personal genius, how it comes through us, which is why I say Mancha is the lore keeper, and the content wizard, and Hillary is the Archon, and Patricia the custodian of the land. So, and my thing is like the guardian dragon, like we all have monikers, icons, because we take on different icons that our genius can come through. Genius requires many eyes. It's like you can't see genius on your own. tried. I fail miserably every time. It's like genius requires many, many eyes. You can't see it on your own. You can't see everything on its own. So it is great to have more people involved with it. What that's going to mean for you, I don't actually really know. But I just wanted to give you that piece of information. So I think the last part I want to say is like, is genius always completely, is it completely different from what you have already been doing? I want to say that since 1991, I have known that what my life is about is personal transformation and helping people with the personal transformation. How that has shown up over the years has changed. And especially now with me going dark and doing it the genius way, now that's coming through very much like channeling about people's genius, and then channeling the dragon and activating the dragon codes, and you just code upgrades and the whole thing. But has it really changed that much? It's the same thing, kind of the same thing. So I don't really have the answer to that, but would I ever have thought I would ended up working with dragon codes? No. No way would I ever have thought I ended up with dragons. As much as I like the idea of dragons, as much as I love stories about dragons, as much as I love my own personal experiences of dragons, would I ever thought I'm coming into this? Yeah, no. The myth, yes. So to me, this is one of the loveliest part of genius, which is the myth. So genius has almost like its own myth. And if you go onto my website, if you go into the About section, you can see where the myth is, and you can see, which is what my mentor Sonika channeled for me. For Mystique, I should say, not for me, but for Mystique and the Mystery School. And she totally nailed it. It's like all about dragons and mystery and genius. Those were the three things she focused on. And I was like, just let me do some more business coaching, because my human gets in the way, right? It's like it becomes about what I want and not what genius wants. And I totally screw myself up that way. Anyway, so the myth is almost like a story that you live. Like Naveed brings it back to, brings your genius through via, the art he does for you, your genius art and his genius music, and he absolutely nails it. And both of them had dragons in it, surprise, and I still didn't do anything with it. But it's coming, dragons coming in strong now. So the myth is like, imagine your genius as a mystical realm, like a separate realm that is not necessarily like Earth. Like Mystique happens to be very Earth-like in my imagination, even if I shouldn't imagine anything. But it's its own world, which is own looks, which is own landscape, which is own tone, which is own flavors, which is own sounds, which is own, things on the world that exist in the world. And through that world, this world has a very specific, exact, I don't know if atmosphere is the correct word to use here, but almost like an energetic atmosphere that can be captured in words. And giving words to people's genius is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experience, to really have that nailed exactly where it becomes almost tangible as a feeling of what the genius is. And one of the things I've been doing is like when I have been offering, creating different courses, I've been writing the myth for that course also, because each course has its own myth. Each program has its own myth. Sanctorium has its own myth. Mystique has its own myth. And there is something that makes it, once you have that myth, that makes it like so easy to know what your genius is, like to recognize the field of your genius. And once you know, it becomes very easy to put pictures to it. It becomes easy to find the fonts. It becomes easy to create the logo. It becomes easy to find the words, because they're coming out of your genius. They're no longer coming out of your mind. They're coming out of your body. And take, for example, the new font you have been, seeing lately. It's called Old Alfie. I knew I had to look for a new font. And I was kind of like, I came across this, and it had to be some kind of vintage font, like, with a little bit ornament, but not very much. And then I was running them by Sanika, my mentor, and she said this Old Alfie, and I just, okay, done, I submit. To my human, it wasn't my favorite font at all. It was like way too ornate for, my human taste. But as I submitted to it, it took 3 minutes after that before the new logo landed, which we have been trying to pull through for, a couple of months, which, in the best case scenario, it ended up looking like a dragon dancing on spider legs, which was not the impression that we wanted. It was so hilarious. It was so hilarious. And it just came like doon, 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 it just came like that. So genius, once you really submit to it, and once you really fold into it, and start recognizing the vibe or the myth or the tone, or I don't really know what word to use. It's like once you get that, it's like everything becomes like, this is it, this is it, this is it, this is not it, this is not quite precise, do. The sacred part of it to me is that it is a divine mystery. Your genius, like mine, is a divine mystery. It is not a human mystery, it's a divine mystery. It's very, very sacred because it is divine in nature. I think of it as my divine mandate, which is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm here to live. This is what I'm here to bring into the world. So, but it's not really of my human knowing or my human understanding or my human capability to comprehend. It goes far beyond that. Remember, it's like I've unhooked from everything matter to the human and shed my human so that I'm here as my spiritual divine essence self. And it's like genius, this sacred mystic genius doesn't become available to you until you have made that sacrifice. So to me, it is sacred. It is sacred, and it deserves to be approached with reverence and, everything that means around it. It's not a toy. It's not something to take lightly. So Sanctorium, the 1-year school, if you want to know about that, it's 1 year, 16 workshops of each 6 hours. It's pretty much every 3 weeks we'll meet for 6 hours. And we will work with your genius and activating the dragon codes and spin that whole thing together. So by the end of the 1 year, it's like I can't even, if I think back where it was a year ago, I was still on the light grid. I was still doing my light mastery thing. I hadn't even, even touched my genius yet. And now a year later, I'm here doing a dragon school. This is what it's going to be about. And, I took it slow way because I didn't, this was all kind of just things that were just like becoming available to know about. It's like, if I think about where you can be a year from now working with your genius, especially, by activating the dragon codes because, oh, I was going to talk about dragons today. That's for tomorrow. So I'm not going to talk about dragon codes and what dragons has to do with genius, because that comes later. So genius, your sacred, mystic genius, which is the source of the unimaginable life. And when I say unimaginable, I really, really, really mean unimaginable. But also, once you live the unimaginable life, you're absolutely going to love it.